seen the famous Pelé biography movie, you know that radio was there even before television was brought to life. Commentators brought each game to life, making his legendary goals vivid even without a screen. How was it possible back then? To create a radio, there are 8 requirements: electromagnetic waves, a transmitter, an antenna, modulation techniques, frequency and band location, power source, and medium of propagation. All this could not just be discovered by a single person, so as years and years passed on, each were becoming possible, and the radio became more clear and widely used. The discovery of electromagnetic waves is like the main idea behind a radio being possible. If it wasn't discovered, by now maybe we could still be in the caveman era. A Scottish physicist named Clerk Maxwell found its existence through his theory of electromagnetism, now known as Maxwell's equations. Maxwell made a proposal that oscillating electric and magnetic fields could travel through space as waves, suggesting that light itself was an electromagnetic wave with a very short wavelength. By that time, people were like, "What the hell is this guy thinking?" But inspired by this theory, a German physicist named Heinrich Hertz confirmed it in 1886. He did this by using a primitive spark gap transmitter, successfully generating and detecting radio waves, though by then he didn't know its actual use. And here is where it all began, the history of radio. But that wasn't the end. Through these experiments, Hertz and other scientists like Jagadish Chandra Bose, Oliver Lodge, and Augusto Righi found out that radio waves exhibited properties such as reflection, refraction, diffraction, and polarization, and that, like light, they traveled at the speed of light. Building on these discoveries, an Italian inventor, Guglielmo Marconi, made a breakthrough in 1895 when he developed the first radio communication system. He did this by using the same spark gap transmitter. He was able to transmit Morse code signals over long distances, and by December 1901, he achieved what many thought impossible: transmitting a signal across the Atlantic Ocean. This was a very large historic feat that firmly made Marconi a pioneer in radio communication, and in 1909, he shared the Nobel Prize in Physics with Carl Ferdinand Braun for their contributions to wireless telegraphy. There it goes, bit by bit, year by year. The possibility of talking in Asia and being heard in Europe was being made possible. The power source was mentioned, so radio wouldn't have been possible if not for a great inventor, Nikola Tesla, who discovered alternating current. This current could transmit it over much greater distances than direct current. Tesla patented a device to induce electrical current in a piece of iron, a rotor, spinning between 2 electrified coils of wire. This added to the wide use of radio, and also William Dubilier was an American inventor in the field of radio and electronics, famous for pioneering the development of mica capacitors and advancing capacitor technology, which also played a role in the early development of radio and electronics. He demonstrated radio communication at Seattle's Alaska-Yukon Pacific Exposition on June 21, 1909, 10 years before the first commercial station operated. Radio's initial decades, when then everyone saw it as the radio telegraphy era, saw Morse code a different way. It was discovered that it could be used for Morse code-based messaging, unlike the usual voice transmission. Early radio transmitters could only generate pulses of radio waves, which allowed for person-to-person text communication, kind of like the walkie-talkie, but in a lower version. By 1908, powerful transoceanic transmitters were connecting continents, allowing countries to exchange telegrams across vast distances. These networks kept ships and naval fleets connected to their homelands and were invaluable for emergency situations at sea. So more or less, radios were used mainly in sea as at then. With the start of World War I, the use of radio became more important. Researchers developed continuous wave transmitters, which were important for transmitting voices rather than just coded pulses. With this breakthrough, an inventor named Reginald Fessenden created the first amplitude modulation radio telephony system, short for AM, which allowed audio transmission. And by the end of the war, radio became more than just a tool for text-based communication. Everyone wanted to make it a broadcasting medium and get some cool cash out of it, and they were successful. It still impacts on our lives. The 1920s started civilian broadcasting. That was on November 2nd, 1920, when a station created by Westinghouse Electric in Pittsburgh made history by airing the first commercial radio broadcast covering the Harding-Cox presidential election. This started something. Later on across the Atlantic, the British broadcasting company BBC launched, providing news and entertainment to households throughout the UK. As families began gathering around radios, stations grew more important because you could listen to music, news, and serialized shows. Governments quickly recognized radio's influence, and in the US, the Radio Corporation of America established formal structures assigning roles and rights to various companies like AT&T, CBS, and NBC, which shaped the industry for decades. When World War II erupted, radio once again became an essential wartime tool. Both the US and the UK relied on radio to deliver news directly from the front lines, keeping the public informed and morale high. In the UK, where television broadcasts were halted, the BBC became the nation's primary source of news. Radio also became a rallying voice, used by governments to garner public support and keep spirits high during the conflict. This period cemented radio's role as a powerful medium capable of influencing and uniting entire nations. During this time, other ideas came up, and not long after, there was a transformation. FM was born. It was invented in 1933 by Edwin Howard Armstrong, who patented wideband FM on December 26th of that year. Unlike the AM, FM radio uses frequency modulation to reduce static and interference from the atmosphere and electrical equipment, making the sound clearer. It was not until the 1960s it became widespread. News and entertainment serials continued being broadcast, there was no issue with that, but its focus shifted a bit toward music, with Socio Top 40 programs gaining more popularity. Now, FM radio started to rise, providing a more sound quality and making a driving force behind the radio's success. Today, radio is more versatile and accessible than ever. Traditional AM, FM radio remains a mainstay in cars and homes, but digital transformations have opened new frontiers. Now here is satellite radio, which offers a staggering array of choices without geographical limits, while internet radio allows listeners to tune in from anywhere in the world. Digital two-way radios with secure encrypted channels are also used everywhere for public safety and security. Radio continues to show its importance. Hope you grabbed something. Please like and subscribe. Thank you for watching.